What's up, everybody? Jordan Angeli here for another edition of NWSL Live. Thank you guys so much for joining us. It's week 3 already, and we've had a couple of good weeks already of our NWSL Live. It's a Thursday night, so we're going to bring you guys everything on and off the field as it pertains to NWSL over the last week. I'm Jordan Angeli, of course, hosting you guys every single week. And you guys, I can't do this by myself. You all know that. So I'm going to welcome in two of our favorite experts in women's soccer from the Equalizer Soccer, Jeff Kassouf, and NWSL veteran Lindsey. What's going on, you two?
What's up?
What's up?
You guys look great. Lori, you're making me think we're reversing seasons, but I like
being here in Iowa. So, but no, I'm joking.
Yeah.
Cloudy, so I'm bundling up.
Yeah. Jeff, you first. Soccer. There was real soccer on TV this weekend. One that we didn't know the result of. Did you watch any of the Bundesliga games?
I watched a little bit of it. Yeah, I watched most in depth on Monday. I would say, it was good to have it back. You could definitely tell that it's been a while since there was some training. I think, especially defensively, but that made it fun, I guess. So.
Yeah, Lori, were you able to catch any of the games?
Yeah, same, just a little bit as well. And so exciting for it to be back. And I think all of us who love sports in general, not only soccer, are just the craving, that live element.
Just something, right? Something. Just to see them celebrate, even though they couldn't hug or like do all the things we're used to in celebrations. It was just nice to see the ball go in the back of the net. Maybe unless you were Schalke's goalie, then you didn't like that so much. But great to have some soccer. Of course, individual trainings going on in NWSL as well here, which is a nice step in the right direction. But we got to get into our first point here in today's show. We're going to talk next breakout star. And you guys, one of the things that we do every single week, we bring you an NWSL player, right? So we're bringing this to you guys live. But one of the things, Jeff, Lori, we've talked about is we want to bring other experts in NWSL, in the sport of women's soccer, to come help us debate these topics, because that's where all the fun lies, right? These best of categories. We want to get some different voices joining us. And our first guest, her resume is one of the best in the world, right, of sports broadcasting. It does not disappoint. She has called everything from NCAA Women's College Championships to multiple FIFA Women's World Cups. She has also been the lead play-by-play announcer for the NWSL over the past few seasons. Can we please welcome to the show now, Miss Jenn Hildreth? What's going on, Jen?
Oh, I love that intro. Hey, guys.
Yeah. Flip that hair over your shoulder. Give us your strut, girl.
Yeah.
Show us the banana clip.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. We've got some good 80s style happening over here. So,
speaking of fun. Yeah, speaking of style, you've got a stylish backdrop. That looks like some pretty cool tennis rackets behind you. What is that?
I'm not going to lie. This is 100% staged. My office is on the other side of that wall, and I was so sick of every time I've done any sort of call that it's this like weird pink couch that I love but looks weird, and a door and a wall. So I was like, I need somewhere else. This is my husband's area. He's the big tennis guru, but if you look really close in the background, like I did sneak like a scarf and my daughter's soccer ball on the
I like it.
back there. So I was like, I cannot have this tennis arama behind me. We're a soccer show. So
I think it looks really good. It's showing your knowledge of all sports, because you have called and been a part of so many different sports, a 3-sport athlete even in college. So you know a thing or two about all sports, Jen.
A thing or two.
Don't underestimate your ability there. So we're so excited to have you. Thank you so much for being our first guest in this best of category. We're really enjoying this and hope you guys are too as fans. So one of the things that we love is this comment section that you guys can go ahead and hop in right now as I start to introduce what our topic of conversation is going to be today. Well, we want to hear from you, because one of the cool things is we can actually put your comments into the chat, from the chat into the live stream right away, and we can give you a little shout out. So make sure you're joining in and giving us your picks as well. So how about let's get to it, you guys. We're going to do NWSL's next breakout star. So how this is going to kind of roll. I'm going to give you guys all a little opportunity here to give us your pitch for why your player is the best breakout star here in NWSL for this next season, whenever that may be. And we're going to start with Jeff Kassouf. How about that? Okay. Lori, right. Jen, we'll see you guys in a second. We'll hear from Jeff first.
Yeah, that's all just right. So they can't argue with me. That's all.
Oh, there will be plenty of arguing when this all gets down. But to start off, Jeff, you have a player that you've picked. You've really done some research. You think this player is the next breakout star in NWSL.
Yeah, I should say, has certainly done many things and could be qualified as a veteran. But I think for me, the way I thought about this, as we talked about this topic, was who's maybe not gotten enough credit for what they've done or is ready to do even more. And I'm really interested on a team level at what Sky Blue is going to do. And I think there's some obvious choices to look at there. But as that team gets better and gets some recognition, I think Sarah Woldmoe, who just married Sarah Killian, as many know her, is a player that, for starters, has been with this club through thick and thin. Obviously, a lot has gone on and off the field for them, a lot of struggles, and has been kind of a central focal point for this team and hasn't always necessarily gotten the attention, the credit. So I think as this team gets better, which I think, people hear Sky Blue, they maybe think, okay, 9th a couple years ago, 8th last year. I think this is a team that contends for the playoffs this year, or in the future, in the foreseeable future. So I think as we see like Carly Lloyd scoring more goals, Mallory Pugh stepping into the equation, Midge Purse, I think a focal point, a central part of that is going to be Sarah Woldmoe with that distribution and being a key factor there for all those players to open them up.
I love that pick, Jeff. And you were talking about goal scoring and distribution, but that second goal she just scored there was so sweet. It was so perfectly timed. She's a player who's been with Sky Blue for her entire career. She leads them in minutes over the past few seasons. And when you're looking at a breakout player, you are a little bit looking for that consistency.
Yeah. And I think, we've seen that. Like I said, I don't think that it's really gotten the attention because of maybe where Sky Blue has been on the table. But I really think that they've built something here that if they can keep this roster together and make it gel, that I think we're going to see them jump up the table and we'll see kind of maybe some headline names that put the ball in the back of the net for them. But I think she's going to be key to kind of making all of that happen. And I look forward to being right about that first off, but I think that'll happen.
Yeah. Sarah Woldmoe just surpassed 100 games. She's at 101 starts, 106 total appearances with Sky Blue, and led the team along with Raquel Rodriguez last year in assists. So I like that pick, Jeff. We'll see if we have any debate here later on. We're going to bring our next pick in. Lori Lindsey is going to be next. So I'm going to take Jeff out of here. And we'll be back, Jeff, because we've got some debate to do about this in just a few minutes. But Lori, you heard Jeff's pick. Now it's your turn. You get to give us your little pitch on why you picked the player you picked.
Well, I should say, though, I always respect Jeff's picks, but then I'm always think that mine are better. So there will be debate, I'm sure. But my pick is actually from Sky Blue as well, who was just recently traded to the Portland Thorns. So Rocky Rodriguez, who I feel like a lot like Sarah Killian, and Jeff just mentioned some of those qualities from Sarah as well. But because of playing with Sky Blue, I think wasn't able to showcase quite a few of her talents. A true number 10, but can play up top, can play in a number 9, can play in a winger position as well. And just an incredible goal scorer. I don't think we've quite seen her ability to score some of the goals, though, again, because I think was forced to do some work that she isn't used to doing, especially when she came from Penn State, was able to play just more of an attacking role, surrounded by players that could serve the ball in for her to be able to get in good positions in the box. But Rookie of the Year in 2016, again, just traded to Portland Thorns. So I'm excited to see what she's going to be able to do with the Portland Thorns, given that they have had historically going forward a plethora of goods in terms of their attack and their ability to score a lot of goals and different style of goals. And I think she could fit into that or the Portland Thorns team seamlessly, actually, with her ability on the dribble, with her own service, with her passing range. So again, just some qualities that I don't think that we've quite seen when she's playing with Sky Blue, that I still now, being a little bit more of a seasoned player, I think that we'll start to see shine through.
Yeah, you mentioned it, just that defensive responsibility that she did have with Sky Blue. Not that it's all going to be gone in Portland, right? But it will be different, and it will maybe allow her the ability to get into the attack. We saw a few goals right there, but if I'm looking at her stats, I'm not thinking, knowing her, that there's enough goals that she's produced.
Well, 100%. And it's not that you take away, like as you mentioned, her complete defensive responsibility. It was just with Sky Blue, obviously lost their way the last few seasons a bit, and just weren't as attacking minded. And she was forced to come back and do a lot more of the defensive work when you want a player like Rocky Rodriguez to be closer to the goal. And I think it's also fair to say that we have a lot of different players in the NWSL, and Rocky Rodriguez is not one that's going to be a box-to-box player, and that's okay. We don't need her to be that in this league. She doesn't need to be that. And so what team or what players can she be surrounded by that can bring out her best qualities? And I think this is a player that should be actually surrounded by quality players to bring those out. Like, she has some really exceptional qualities that we haven't quite seen yet. So
I like it.
I look forward to, yeah.
I like it, Lori. All right, Jenn, you get to hear everybody first before you get to choose, right? So maybe a little advantage there on how you're going to give this pitch of who the next breakout star is in NWSL. So give it to us. Who you got?
I'm not going to lie. I like this prime spot that you put me in here, Jordan. So thank you very much for that. And it's funny because thinking on these other picks, there are some similarities between who I'm going to talk about and who Jeff talked about. These two both played and won a national championship on the same team in college. They came out in the same draft year. Now, Sarah Killian Woldmo, not quite used to that yet, was picked higher than my pick, but I'm going to go with Darian Jenkins from Olympic Lyon Reign. And the reason is, this is a player who has just not had an opportunity to truly get going and get up to speed. And I use that word speed purposely in this league yet. She's really dynamic player, but she is someone who had a compound fracture in her leg in her senior year at UCLA. And that really affected her. I mean, she could have gone a lot higher in that draft. She was a number 7 overall pick in 2017 by North Carolina. And at the draft, she was on crutches. So this is a player that the Courage decided to take a chance on, which was great. But then in 2018, she tried to break into the most dominant offense and team in the history of the NWSL. She did not break into that team.
Right.
I looked back at some of my quotes and conversations with Paul Riley, and he was saying she looked really fabulous in the preseason. But the truth is just, where does she fit? Where does she fit in that dynamic league best offense? And she really didn't. So she asked for a trade, went to the Reign. And last year, Vlatko, I remember, just raved about her a couple of times. Late in the season, we had them, might have been before one of the Portland games. And he talked about the fact that she finally had a 90-minute game. That this was late September, close to October. She finally had her first 90-minute game in what was probably 2 or 3 years. And he said, then give her a chance to string together a few 90-minute games. We're not going to see her best yet. We're going to see it in the next year. So I know Vlatko is not there to guide her anymore, but still those words stuck with me. And I do feel like she went to the Australian W League, played with Melbourne Victory for the first time in this offseason. So I'm really excited to see what she can do.
And some good confidence there coming from the now national team head coach to say, hey, watch out for this girl. When somebody says that, then you're really, your eyes open and you say, okay, I will watch out for her. I would agree with you. She just hasn't quite been able to string that together. I remember watching Darian Jenkins play when she was in college. She came to Colorado to play for a W League team. And I was like, this girl is legit. So I think we're kind of all anticipating that, you know, I couldn't quite get the video of her to work out as I would have liked, but it was a nice little goal that she scored there for OL Reign. And okay, now everybody's back. Our picks are made. Let's start with you, Jeff. Thoughts about Lori and Jenn's pick, and we can just start to go around the horn here.
Well, I think Lori might have stole my second or first choice there, but
I totally did.
Jenn's very convincing here, bringing out draft stats and anecdotes on crutches and everything. That was very impressive, and I can't argue with anything that Vlatko said. So I think I will give Jenn credit. She probably has the most, the player who has the most upside that hasn't yet established herself in our group.
Yeah. When you guys were researching this,
Jenn.
When you guys were researching these players, because these players, one of the things that I noticed about all of them is they've been in the league. It's hard to break into this league as a breakout star when you haven't ever experienced that. Lori, would you agree that just being in season, game after game, knowing what it's like, that's a real advantage for these players to be the next breakout star?
Yeah, I mean, just listening to Jeff and Jenn's picks and then also thinking about it prior to the show and why I was picking Rocky Rodriguez, what was apparent to me is just that it is so difficult. I mean, there's just not a lot of room for players to come in and make an impact right away, I should say. And a lot of times it does take a little bit. And it really, I think, depends on, again, and we've touched on this a little bit, I think, throughout all the picks here. It was like with Jenn, with Darian, in terms of North Carolina, you're playing on the best team that's like a star-studded team. How do you even begin to break into that team unless you're willing to wait 3 seasons, essentially, for some people to either maybe get injured or just retire out. But I mean, if you look across the board, it's just not enough. There's not a ton of room for these players to come in and make a big impact. So you do have to wait. And a lot of times it's about players finding the perfect match. I think you see that a lot with coaches as well, right? It's just like sometimes you do really well at one team, get the buy-in, and other places you don't. And just sometimes you have to kind of buy your time till you find that fit with the team that works for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And Jenn, you get to see these players a lot. We're missing your calls and all of these NWSL games as we speak. But when you're watching these players, is it their grit and intensity and willingness to continue to fight? All 3 of these players have that in common.
Yeah, and I think I really love Rocky Rodriguez as well. However, I would say I don't know how an NWSL Rookie of the Year can qualify as a breakout star, Lori. I agree. She's one of those ones that I kept waiting. Like, when is she going to take over? And I do think she was in a really difficult situation and had to do an awful lot at Sky Blue, and I think that was a big part of it. And you do see the work rate. I think that just players who, when they're on the field, sometimes you sense that the game flows differently when they're on the field and they're not. Rocky Rodriguez, for sure, one of those players. I'm really interested to see what Sarah Killian can do, because I think she's flown very much under the radar. My only question is, and I know, Jeff, you pointed out that you kind of look to her in a playmaking role. I was looking at her numbers, and I was thinking, okay, 11 goals, 9 assists in her 5 years. It's respectable. It's fine. But then I said, wait a minute. This is a great Jen Cooper note. 8 of those goals were from the penalty spot. So we know she's really good at PK.
Yeah.
I get that it's more than goals. It's about creating and setting up for your teammates. But I did want to say, you guys were talking about draft picks, and that's initially who I started thinking of. I said, okay, let me start at the top with Sophia Smith, who I loved watching play at the College Cup. A couple of times got to see her with Stanford. She's a really impressive player. I reached out to Mark Parsons, chatted with him a little bit too, just to kind of get his take on everything. But my own thought was, man, it is hard as a rookie to really be that star. And so I did look back at all of the different first picks and even the top 3 picks. And I would say the ones that had the most immediate impact were defenders, or at least initially were defenders. Crystal Dunn was the top pick in 2014. Of course, she had her best year the next year when she moved to offense, but she was on defense to begin with. Julie Johnston was the number 3 pick that same year, Julie Ertz. So I think coming in as that attacking player and really having that consistent impact is tough. I mean, it is tough to adjust.
Yes.
Lori and I talk about this a lot.
I am going to get destroyed for this, but Jenn, you touch on, because I've always said, and this is no I don't take anything. I think the defending in this league is exceptional, and it doesn't take anything away from the defenders. But I've always said it's easier to come in and make an impact as a defender, because it's a lot of times easier to destroy than it is to create, especially in this league when there's strikers that have kind of had their way with the game at the college level because they're the most athletic or because they're savvy on the ball. And then when you meet that same or better athleticism in the defensive end, then it's like your whole world's blown up. And it takes a while to understand runs and the timing of how to be effective in the attack in this league. And I think it's such an eye-opening experience for a lot of attackers, and it takes some time. It really does. Yeah. And any defender is always like, I don't think I agree with you. Fair enough.
Oh, I love that.
I didn't like to defend either, so I get it.
Right? We've got this comment here from Allison Fink going to the offensive side. She's going back to Jasmine Spencer. She said she's going to be the breakout player of the year. I think she has a point. We talked to Jasmine about her recovery and coming back from that ACL injury. But Jasmine Spencer has been a consistent player. She's done a lot of work. Do you feel like, what does it take for her to have a breakout year?
I will start. I'll say one thing I think for her, having watched her play in college as well, is having that versatility to her game. You know, her speed was always a great weapon for her, but being able to add other elements, at least, you know, that's my non-analyst take. I'd much rather hear the analyst on this, but that's my initial thought is, has she added some more layers, some more value? Maybe even it's adding some defensive prowess so that she can be trusted to defend as well as attack. That's my first thought.
Yeah, Lori, after our conversation with Jasmine, she's eager, she's ready to go. Do you feel like that could be a shout for her to be the breakout star of this next year?
Yeah, I agree completely with Jen on that. And I think what comes with that is consistent playing time as well, to be able to utilize that. Because I think with Jasmine, she started a few games, then she's come off the bench a lot where she's been expected to utilize some of her athletic qualities to be able to stretch defenses or open up a game, whatever that looks like with the team that she's playing for. And so I think if she can get herself into a more consistent playing time and even a starter role, then I think we could potentially see some of those other qualities come out for her. Jeff, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, we talked to her a couple weeks ago. I think the rain period, I mean, there's so many players that are coming back from injury. Taylor Smith comes to mind too, as someone who I think, curious to see.
That's a good one.
Her back to 100% from, being on the national team a couple of years ago, and another one that Vlatko talked about end of last year. So I think they've got a handful of players on that team alone that'll have some interesting, points to prove.
Yeah. Well, this has been fun. What a good topic to bring Jenn in for. Jenn, we can't thank you enough. You brought some good insight. And I know that you said you're not an analyst, but we know that you were an analyst for a while. You can change your boots. You know that.
Oh no, you're the boot changer. You're great at going back and forth there, Jordan. I was only there until I got kicked out, and I should have probably been kicked out long before. But I'm glad. I'm glad to have slid over. But thank you. Though. It's so wonderful to be talking NWSL and soccer, and
I know it's so great
to do more soon.
Can we have you back then? You're coming back?
Yeah.
Okay, great. All right, you're a mainstay.
Yeah, I love that. Yes, we would love to have you back. And we just thank you for your time. And you got to let us know more about those tennis rackets next time, because they look like they're pretty special tennis rackets.
Well, we'll tease that for the next episode. Okay. Yes, there's some history there for sure.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Jenn, and cheers.
Cheers. Thanks, guys.
Bye, Jenn.
Oh my gosh, so fun to have Jenn Hildreth, and just to hear her voice, you guys, right? Does it make you feel like we get that little bit of NWSL broadcast back?
Oh, it's so fun. Yeah, I mean, we're all so hungry for sport and soccer. So it's like, come on, do it.
All right. Well, we're going to have to, we're having a little problem with Toni, our guest coming up next. She's saying that her video is disappearing. So we're going to just have her log back in. And, this is what I get to do. I get to do all the things.
Live TV. You're juggling a lot.
Live TV. While Jordan types on her computer and texts Toni. Well, this is exciting, you guys.
Time, too.
Yeah.
Time to ask some questions for Toni.
Yes. As always, we want to hear from you guys. The comment section is open. And as you saw, Allison Fink asked a question, actually had a comment about who she thought the breakout player was going to be. So we put it right into the stream. So you can go ahead and ask or add your comments right now. And we'll be sure to try to get those in. I'm going to try to lead into our next guest here. She's in. Let's see if it works. It looks like her video is not working right now.
Oh,
that's not her. Believe it or not, it's not her. So I'm gonna take her out again and see if we can have her sign in one more time.
Wait, that was her, Jordan.
Did you see her? You could see her.
That was Jenn.
I can't see her.
We're like, wait, that was Toni.
Oh, it was just blue for me. So if it's
her
next time,
you cut her off.
Okay, if she's gonna sign back on, I'm gonna show her. But I can't see her, so you guys are going to have to lead the way here. You can see her?
Yeah. Hi, yay, welcome. Wait.
I can't hear her. I can't hear her, so if you guys can hear her, then...
Toni, speak. No. Oh, no. Can you hear Jeff?
We swear we tested this.
We did test it.
No.
So you guys can at least see her. I can't even see her.
1 second.
Okay. Because if you guys can hear her, I'm gonna have you go ahead and go with the interview.
Okay, well we can't.
I know, but I'm just saying in general.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That sounded aggressive too. We can't.
How about now?
Okay. Yes, we can hear you. Jordy, can you hear?
Great.
Nope, it's up to you guys. I'll add some. I'll add some stuff in and mix it up. It's probably not gonna have any. I'm going to add some elements as you guys talk to Toni, so just let me know when you're done.
Jordan just producing. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'll be producing here. Okay, you guys just carry the show now. Bye-bye.
Okay, awesome. Well, Toni, thank you so much for jumping on. Oh my gosh, it's so great to see you.
You too.
Yay, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you guys doing?
Good.
We're great. We are great. And when Jordan and I were joking with you prior that we're just having all of our former teammates and friends on. So this is amazing. It's like big reunion. Okay, well, since Jordan would usually be doing this part, but since she can't, this will be unique and fun at the same time. But let's start. So 2019, well, first of all, you've had a great career. You've been in the league. This will be the 8th year, so all 8 seasons. But last year, pretty wild year for you in terms of an unexpected breast cancer diagnosis. You've been completely open about it. Jenn Hildreth, who we had on prior, we even talked with you live at one of the Orlando Pride games last September. Can you kind of walk us through what that process was like to get back on the field for that last game?
Yeah, so I think, having all this happen, like, obviously didn't expect it. I don't think anyone ever does. And when I found out what my diagnosis was and what my treatment plan and journey would look like, it became more clear to me that playing again and getting on the field possibly for our last game was a real possibility. And I think, like, just so exciting, and I felt so lucky and grateful for that to happen. And it wouldn't have happened without my club and my teammates and my strength performance coaches and my coaches to kind of help lead me and guide me, get me back to fitness, and honestly, like, trust that I could play and put me in the last game as a sub.
Mm-hmm. Amazing. Can you talk about kind of where that's looked like now, from that last game to the training now?
Mm-hmm. Yep. So just so after season, I actually had another surgery, and then after that, it was just about getting fit again and leading into preseason. So I spent the entire off season just focusing on that personally, getting fit. And then, so I was ready to go by the time preseason came around.
Well, I think I speak for everybody to say that we're really happy that you're doing well and back on the field and, smiling and coming on here dancing. So thank you for joining.
TikTok.
Yeah. You're back on the field with individual training, obviously, playing in Orlando, you've grew up in Florida, played in Florida, what I'm wondering, we talk a lot on this show about kind of why you play is kind of our big question we ask everybody. And what's it like being back kind of home, so to speak, as a pro or close to home? And even just, walking back to your earlier days in the career, even maybe before college, of like, what got you hooked on the sport?
It's really cool, actually. Grew up in Florida and now play professionally in Florida because we train on the fields that I played on as a kid. So it's kind of like come full circle for me, which I think is pretty neat. And yeah, I just like obviously love soccer. I've been playing it all my life, and it's, I think, one of the ways I can truly have an outlet in life. And kind of when I'm on the field and training in games, I just forget the outside world and noise, and I can kind of just focus. And it's just a really good outlet for me.
That's really cool. That's the same fields, huh?
Yeah, it's so cool.
Well, I know Lori was all about the different outlets. She's asking about photos.
Well, I mean, Toni and I go back a while, so let's shift gears a little bit, because I would like to talk about several things, and we'll see what kind of time we have. But first, we see your shirt here, animal rights. You've been very open about being vegan and cooking, and I even saw just like in the last few hours too, some sort of delicious cast iron dish that you had with corn on the grill, and I'm like, I need to be in Florida right now. What's happening? So how did that come about? Because I know when we were playing, you were always cooking food as well, but I don't remember you being full on vegan. So can you kind of walk us through that process as well and how that came about?
Yeah. So my first season in Orlando, didn't go well for me at all for many reasons. I think, I was very, unhappy off the field, and it kind of, really reflected on the field. Post that season, I really felt like something needed to change. And I was desperate for change. And I think leaning into veganism is one way that I could kind of take control back of something. It just so happens that it really did help me physically with my fitness and how I was feeling and my sleep. So I was like, I might be onto something here. This is not necessarily a short-term thing anymore. I think I can see myself doing this for long-term. I've been doing that since the end of 2016. And it's been great.
Well, Ali Riley was on my podcast last week, and she said that your funfetti cake.
I'm so
you
curious.
Guys need to try it. It's phenomenal. Okay,
listen, we'll send our addresses, okay? And you ship them.
I'm wondering, I feel like there are a lot more players who are vegan in the league than people realize. Do you, anecdotally, is that something you've seen?
Yeah, I think so. I think there are a lot of players who are vegan and kind of dabble in the plant-based lifestyle. And I think with all the research and, documentaries coming out, I think it's something that people aren't necessarily afraid of anymore. And it's not so, taboo because of all of the science and research behind it and how it can, enhance performance and whatnot. I think there are a lot of us out there.
So, well, I got to ask, Jordan wants me to ask too. She said, we know some of your most successful recipes, but what turned out to be a disaster for you?
Oh,
this is Jordan's question.
Jordan's really putting me on the spot here. A disaster. Oh, I tried to make a vegan lasagna one time, and it was terrible. I was absolutely crushed. Okay. I haven't made it since.
Was that you coming to that realization, or did somebody have to tell you?
A bit of both.
This is great.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you. As they spit it out.
What was in the dish? The one dish tonight. I need to know.
Oh, so Marta made that. I've low-key, turned her vegan as well, but it's fine.
Fair enough.
she just made this dish of it reminded me of a breakfast hash. So it had potatoes and onion and peppers and a vegan cheese and vegan egg and an avocado. It was delicious. And she made it on the grill, and I was like, girl, yes, I will have. I had 4 plates of it, honey.
Oh, yum. Yum. Okay. Awesome. Shifting gears even more, let's talk about all things these can be intertwined because I think they go seamlessly together, but photography and style. And more directly at photography, I was creeping on your Instagram photography page. And when did that come out? Because first of all, I'm starting to dabble in it, and so that's why I'm actually curious, but amazing. And how'd that get going?
Well, I think I really enjoy art. I think, besides soccer, it's one of the spaces that I feel like I can really release, and just having many creative outlets, I think is a way that I feel most home with myself. So photography kind of just fell in my lap, just through other friends and seeing them do it. And I was like, wow, this is really cool. You can just make this. So I was like, I want to try. I got a camera. I remember Danny Weatherholt. She's really big into photography as well and takes some amazing photos. So just seeing all of her photos really inspired me to kind of get into the photography world. And yeah, I really love taking portraits of people. I think it's really cool to show people a different side of themselves. So I really, really enjoy that. I think that's where my lane, that's where I stay in the photography, the portrait world.
Well, Lori was saying that she's had a bunch of ex-teammates on, but I think she's actually trying to steal people's style, because last week she demanded to know where Sarah Gordon got her jacket. She's trying to get...
It's so true. It just kind of happened that way, but oh my God, it's so funny. I'm like, wait, Toni's into photography? Amazing. This is fantastic. I'm so creeping on everybody's stuff. So it's it's actually the show for me, not NWSL. So welcome everybody. No, just joking. So is that something that you're still taking photos today, and you're active and continuously pursuing that as an art? Is that true?
Yeah, I haven't honestly taken photos in a while. I think, COVID is kind of hindering that a bit, but yeah, I think whenever I can, I do try to take photos. I think, luckily for me, I have teammates who are willing to let me take photos of them. So that's nice. But yeah, I'm active.
That must be a good outlet, right? In normal times when you're playing, you get to kind of step away from a field for a bit.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's cool to realize, I think so much of our world is focused on soccer. And I think for me personally, I tend to forget that I do enjoy other things, and I do find an outlet in other avenues in my life. And yeah, I don't want to limit myself to one thing. I think, we are all the things, and it's something I constantly have to remind myself of.
Yeah, I think that's a fantastic point, and I think that's people who aren't in the professional sports world, that's something that maybe they don't understand, is that it is a lot of the same thing every day. It's very mental, and to step away to perform at your best, you have to find other outlets to kind of clear your mind. And a lot of times I think even as athletes we forget that too, right? Because you want to perform so well, and a lot of it's hindering on how your team's doing, how you're performing individually. And it's just some things that I when I reflect back on my career, it's I wish I would have really kind of dabbled into some of the other stuff to like just like have like an escape, right? So, yeah. Oh my gosh, well, it's so great to have you on. Thank you so much for taking the time. We always appreciate you, and thank you for being in such good health.
Oh, for sure.
So happy for your comeback and here. And if you can see Jordan, she's just waving.
Hi. I can hear all the questions. I couldn't hear your answers, Toni. So I'm so excited to go back over and listen. Just as your former teammate, as your friend, I just love seeing you face things like you always do. You tackle things head on, right, Toni? And we just can't wait to see you and that left foot of yours back on the pitch soon, right?
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thank you so much for your time. Lots of love. We'll talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.
You guys crushed it. No idea what she said, but I heard a lot of laughing.
Fantastic. Yeah.
At one point, I myself was laughing, and I had no idea what she was saying because you guys were laughing.
We'll tell you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it was great.
Yeah, good. Just, I can only imagine how inspiring that was just to hear from her, not only about her journey last year, but it sounds like her journey and being back at home in Florida to how she developed these passions, these other passions off the field. Really cool stuff from Toni Pressley. So thank you for being our third guest on our Why You Play segment. It's been really fun to just dive in deeper with these players. I know, Lori, this is something that you were really excited about when we had this idea for this NWSL Live show.
We also think like just seeing what a lot of the players are involved now and what keeps them going. And I think that's one thing answers, but Toni was talking about like having an outlet, right? And some things needed to change in terms of off the field for her performance to accelerate on the field. And a lot of that, her outlets are art. So, and that can be cooking, that can be photography, style. So
yeah,
really cool to see what keeps these players ticking.
Yeah. And Jeff, I think you're right. Now we know why Lori picks all the guests that she's picking. There is something planned about this.
Jeff, I'll let you know what my pick is for next week. Okay, let me do a little bit of research, everybody.
Jeff, what are you interested in? Maybe you should try to get that player in.
I need some
in our queue.
I need some workout tips. So maybe
Sophia
we need
Huerta?
Abby Urseg with
Abby
Instagram
Urseg?
workouts.
Yeah.
There we go.
All right. We're throwing a few players in there. Okay, before we wrap up this show here today, I think we got to go around the league a little bit, right, and talk about what's going on in NWSL. We've seen teams back on the pitch, photos of them practicing and training as individuals, of course, monitoring social distancing. But one of the things, you guys, that we've been talking about the last couple of weeks is these kit launches, and we got to go out to the Rose City for this one because – oh my fire, this is so good.
It's good.
Do you guys like it?
Love it. And I love the Instagram stuff that they did behind it and just the promotion of it. All the different players on the team like open up their boxes and the excitement they were showing when they first revealed the jersey. So amazing.
Do you like the roses or the thorns better? The thorns on that one is pretty cool too, right?
You know what?
It's hard to pick. They're both so like they're sleek,
right?
This is, and you know what?
Cool.
Chicago's were so nice too. This was a heated debate online here, Jordan. We did an equalizer poll on Twitter for who did it better, Chicago or Portland, which ends in 2 minutes, and it was 50-50 basically the whole time. 53% Portland right now. So,
wow. Both teams crushed it, and just the work by Nike to get those jerseys produced, right? I saw multiple players from different leagues in the United States, MLS players, national team players saying, I'm buying both of these kits, Chicago Red Stars and Portland Thorns kits. So you got to love that. There's hype around this league, and we're not only getting to see that with how these women and how these clubs are using this time. I feel like they're using this time really well to show just what this league is about. It's about a bunch of really good athletes competing week in and week out. And now we're competing for best kits, it looks like, too.
Style. I told you. See,
yes,
we can carry on.
Okay, you guys, as always, I love this Thursday night get together that we get to have on NWSL Live. It has been so much fun. Thank you to Jenn Hildreth for being our first ever extra expert guest in that first segment. And then thank you again to Toni Pressley for coming and sharing a little bit of her journey. Lori, Jeff, it's been fun, you guys, but that's it for us. I will see you guys next week.
Bye. Thank you.
Yeah.
And we're out, you guys. Thanks so much for joining NWSL Live. We will see you next time.